Yay, we're live. Okay. So today we're talking about how to save money on your taxes. Who likes to save money on their taxes? And let me know if you're watching. This is one of my favorite things ever to talk about. So I can't believe I haven't talked about it sooner. But lots of people are making lots of money, or they're gaining a lot of appreciation on their properties very quickly, because the last couple years has been insane. And especially the last 6 months, I know in Omaha, like when I run comps, it's crazy because some places are getting 3% increase in equity in 1 month. So who is watching and likes to save money on taxes? So I'm not going to start until somebody tells me they want to save money on taxes. And I hope somebody will respond, even if it's my husband in the next room who pops on and says he wants to save money on taxes. And I think I'm on YouTube and I'm in our Facebook group. And if you know anyone who would like to hear about how to save money on their taxes, yay! I don't know who that is, but I'm glad I get to get started now. Okay. So 2 things. You guys know I've been dealing with my allergy issue, and I've been like super weird. And I think I finally am on like the verge of being better. So I have a lot more energy today than I have the last couple weeks, which is really, really exciting. Okay. So this message is for anyone interested in investing and avoiding capital gains. So this is builders. If you're a builder, this message is for you. If you're a realtor, this message is for you. If you're an investor, if you're a first-time home buyer or you're about to be a first-time home buyer, this message is for you. Second-time home buyers and those considering a forever home, because before you consider moving into your forever home, I think you should hear this message. And this is the 2 of 5 rule. So anyone watching know what the 2 of 5 rule is when we're talking about capital gains and real estate? Anybody? And I will just go on and tell it because I'm sure somebody's typing it out. But the 2 of 5 rule is, it states that you must have lived in your home for a minimum of 2 out of the last 5 years before the date of sale. And that is to avoid capital gains from the sale of your primary residence up to $250,000 for individuals and up to $500,000 as joint married individuals, or a joint return. So to qualify for the exclusion, you must meet the ownership and residency requirement. So that means living in the property for 2 of the last 5 years. So that means if you bought a house for $500,000, and have you ever, like, I get the question a lot when I go on listing appointments, hey, our 2 year, I know we have to be in the house 2 years before we qualify for the capital gains exemption. And sometimes we're like right on the brink, especially with people's values going up so quickly. More people are selling faster because they have so much equity and they can make a move and, take that equity out and put it in the next house. The thing is, there's tax advantages when that's an investment property and it was a rental and you turn that money over and put it into another rental, then you can, in theory, 1031 exchange it. However, when it's your primary residence, you have to live there 2 out of the last 5 years to meet that exclusion. So that means if you're trying to gain wealth and grow an investment portfolio, we started with our primary residence. And one of the really cool things about that is, let's say you don't plan on being like a long-term landlord, but let's just say, you know what? The market's really good for rentals. I have a really good rate on my home. It doesn't really make sense for me to sell it for whatever reason. And you decide to keep it as a rental property. Well, if you live there 2 out of the last 5 years, you can rent it out for 3 years and then sell it and get that exclusion and qualify for that because it was your primary residence and you lived there 2 out of the last 5 years. Now think about this. If you lived in it so you own the house, you live in it for 2 years, you rent it out for 3 years. So now you move back into it, because I've also had people do that. They move back into it. So now the market keeps going up. What does that happen? So it's 2 of the last 5 years. So that means as long as you live there the last two, so you could own the home 10 years, but as long as you live there 2 of the last 5 years, you qualify for that capital gains. Again, talk to your accountant, have a conversation, give them all the details, your settlement disclosure, make sure, you're all on the same page. And obviously there's limits. So like I mentioned, there's 250,000 for individuals and 500,000 for a joint return. But this is really powerful information, you guys, because, for example, like we work with a builder. So, and a lot of builders will actually move into their own homes and use them as models. Have you guys ever noticed that? Like a builder will actually live in the home, or realtors, have you seen where the builder says like, you schedule a showing because we live in the property. It's an occupied like model. Well, guess what? That builder then can qualify as the primary residence because they live there. And then as it appreciates, they can go ahead and sell it. And, it's the builder's home for sale. They get to build another one, upgrade their home, or use the money from that one and buy another house and avoid that capital gains. So that's a pretty significant tax savings. So if you're in a 35% tax bracket or 25% tax bracket, and your equity has gone through the roof these last couple of years, that's really important to know. And especially as investors, because when we evaluate, when we're looking at depreciation, if we have a primary residence, so let's just use a $1 million primary residence as an example. So we've got $1 million primary residence, and you live there for 2 years, and then you find somebody who mysteriously is like, yes, I want to rent your $1 million house. Okay, cool. So you sign your lease and you're like, all right, so your monthly lease is $8,000 a month, whatever it is. I have no idea. I'm just making this up. We don't have any $1 million rentals. So you sign your lease, $8,000 a month. You get to collect that income and then, talk to your accountant. But as far as I'm concerned, now you have a rental property and you're depreciating the asset because it's rented out. And then as long as you live there for the last 2 years, now you have the option to also not recognize that capital gains. So you get to win multiple ways. And that's why there are rules within the IRS that make real estate a really, really powerful tool to build wealth. And it's it's there. The rules are there. So, when me and Brad had talked about on our podcast before, that it's really important to have your accountant, your attorney, and you all on the same page so you know what the goals are. Because the thing is, the IRS rules aren't like, people think, oh my gosh, I'm paying all these taxes. And it's really like the IRS, if there's a book called Tax Free Wealth, and this is where I'm pulling some of this information from. But, the government will implement things with the goal of people doing things that help the economy and to help the nation, right? So, for example, there's tax benefits to certain things in certain years when they're trying to increase funding, whatever it is. And that's I'm not an accountant, and I'm not the government, right? So that's way above my head. But that's why having somebody who understands, okay, if I invest here, I'm going to get tax benefits, whether that's oil or real estate or education, whatever it might be that they are pushing, there's tax benefits. And that might be even looking into your utilities and stuff and what they're pushing as far as like energy efficiency to conserve energy. And a lot of like the electric right now is being, they're worried about not having enough electricity over the summer months and monitoring that. And there's credits for doing certain things and installing certain energy efficient appliances and HVAC systems and thermostats and all of that. So it's really just being aware of these different benefits and how they can be applied to you and what you're trying to accomplish so that you are coming out ahead and that you're growing. Because education, nobody can take your education away from you. Learn as much as you possibly can and then act on it. And, Brad and I move a lot. We do. And, I am a mover and a shaker, and I like to keep things interesting. So with that, we also we're opportunity seekers. So where there's where we see an opportunity, we're going to take advantage of it. And if there's an opportunity now that allows us to get tax advantages, appreciation, meaning over the next few years, this is a house that is likely going to appreciate at a rapid rate. Cash flow, there's all of those things to evaluate. And when you're talking when I was talking about the 205 rule, $1 million property, let's say that increases by 30%, and you don't, obviously the market ebbs and flows and it goes up and down and there's shifts and it's slower and whatever. But if you were to buy that $1 million property and sell it, a year later for 1.3, and you're subject to 30% capital gains, you just lost $90,000. So, and or 35%, not calculating exactly, but $90,000 is a lot of money that you could do something else with other than roll it over to the IRS. So that's why evaluating all of these different things and really actually understanding how this stuff impacts you and how to make a solid decision about next steps. And when we go on a listing appointment, you guys, I tell a lot of people, I think you should rent your property out. I think it's a great wealth building tool. I don't make any money if you rent your property out. I genuinely think that it's the best advice that you can give a client is what's going to be in their best interest, not my best interest. Because what's in my best interest is listing your house and getting a paycheck. But it's the long term, what's going to be good for them. Because now if I've done something good for the client and they gain value and they've come out ahead because of it, can you imagine? Now you have referrals, you have people who trust you on a whole new level because you were honest with them. Now they can do whatever they like with the information. And I want to be very clear about that, because just because I think it'd be a good rental, they might look at the benefits and they might say, no, I never want to be a landlord. I never want to take a tenant call. That's for them to decide. But as agents and as professionals, we need to be educating the client on what their different options are. Hey, just so you know, you've only lived in your house for a year and you've gained $300,000 in equity. You should probably talk to your accountant before making this decision, because you want to know what the tax implications are going to be. And that's really important. But, so many of us are like, hey, list your house. And the reason that this happens is more because agents are not aware, or they don't know how to have the conversation. And so if you're an agent watching this and maybe you don't understand it, reach out to me. I'm an open book and I'm never going to judge you for not knowing, because at one point in time, none of us knew. It's learning, and honestly, probably learning because we didn't know. And then it came back on us as like, hey, I didn't, client calls and is like, I didn't know this. And this just came up on my taxes. What do I do? And then it's too late because you already sold the house. That's not the situation you ever want to be in. Nor do I want any of my clients to ever be in that. So if you're questioning making a move, or maybe you're not even in the same state as me. So I'm licensed in Nebraska and hopefully soon to be licensed in Arizona, because we've been looking at properties here. So yeah, it's just crazy. But if you're in any state, feel free to run this by me, and I can definitely connect you. If I'm not the one with the answers, I'd love to connect you with the right people. And I have a lot of agents who are thinking about getting licensed or the process of getting licensed. So if you're watching this and you have questions, or you're like, what is she even talking about? Schedule a one-on-one with me, because I think it's really important. The better you understand this. And if you're an investor watching this, wouldn't you love to work with an agent who absolutely knows what they're talking about when it comes to 1031 exchanges, when it comes to understanding capital gains, when it comes to how do you 1031, what are you allowed to 1031? All of those things are super valuable. And, we talk about the person who is able to solve the problem the best is the one who makes the most amount of money. And that's really what educating yourself on these that they feel complicated, and they're not. You guys, I'm not super smart. I just am a hustler, and I'm willing to put in the work, and I'm a researcher, and I'm a researcher to a flaw, to I want to know everything about everything. And I genuinely enjoy just driving around and getting lost. And that's what I think makes me a good real estate agent. And I've noticed that with other people who get into the business. If you hate driving around and looking at properties, it's probably not ideal. If you moan and groan every time you have to get in your car and show a property, think about what is the underlying, why are you upset? Why do you not feel like doing it? And I genuinely love experiencing new neighborhoods and finding new spots and seeing the appreciation, or, what's going on in this location that the comps aren't supporting the values, or what's going on in this location that all of a sudden everything's through the roof and you're like, I know the market and I can't even keep up with what's going on, like understanding like, hey, this is appreciating at 3% per month. That's it. Those are insane numbers, you guys. That's why I thought this talk was really important today, because as everyone's gaining a lot of appreciation, there's a lot of conversation about, should I sell? Should I move? What does that look like for me and my family? And here's the thing, even if you do have to pay taxes on the money, sometimes evaluating it and knowing that we're in a really good spot, interest rates are really low still, so making a move actually makes sense, even if we had to pay capital gains on the sale, the proceeds of our home. But this is when also, did you know, like when you upgrade, so if you make some upgrades to the house, that can offset your capital gains because you can use those receipts as improvements to the property. And again, talk to your accountant. But if you're thinking about selling and you're going to pay capital gains anyways, like let's improve the property, let's max out how much you're going to net. And also then you do have some write-offs. And hey, pay your realtor a little bit more because that's also part of the write-off. Just kidding. Give your realtor a bonus, commission bonus. But actually I want to touch on that. So our boot camp is coming up in June. So June 6th through the 8th. And 6th through the 9th. And then we do have 2 bonus sessions. But we have so many people who have asked about getting licensed, what the process is, how to have a successful real estate business, how to have investment properties, how to have short-term rentals, like all of that stuff we basically jam-packed into a 4-day session boot camp, and then we're going to do 2 bonus sessions. So if you haven't signed up for that, sign up for it. It's $97. The reason we charge for it is because honestly, we're putting it on and we want you to show up. And if you don't pay anything for it, people tend to not give a shit. So we want you to spend the $97 investment, make the commitment, invest in yourself, learn this stuff, spend the time, do the homework. We got a couple worksheets, but day 1, we're going to talk about just what does being a licensed real estate agent entail? What benefits are there? There's a ton of benefits, even if you plan to never sell real estate. So I think so many people think that real estate, if you have a real estate license, it's simply to go show properties and meet clients. And that's just not the case. In fact, there's a lot of benefits. And it's one of the reasons I'm getting licensed in Arizona is for multiple reasons, but so that I can research my own properties and show properties whenever I feel like it. But we're going to go into exactly what that looks like. What are the costs associated? How do you compare with the annual cost with the ROI? This was not planned, but it's come up in a few conversations that I've had, but negotiations is one of that is real estate, negotiating a contract. So we are adding that into day 2. So we're going to talk about the client experience, how to find deals, how to negotiate deals so that you can be in a win-win situation, get instant equity when you're buying properties. And day 2 in itself, just that quick $97 investment, I want you to like 100x it, because I'm hoping that you'll take the information I'm going to give you. I'm hoping that you'll apply it to real life. You'll find a property. You will apply the principles of what I'm going to teach you, and you're going to score big on a property. And you're going to call me and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I did that. I put in the work, I did the actions, and this is what happened out of it. So really excited. I'm really excited about day 2. Day 3, we're talking marketing and how to get in front of your ideal client. So who do you want to work with? Because who wants to work with people they don't even like? Not me. And I've been really blessed in my career because I've worked with, I can't think of a bad client experience. Now, there's been crappy things that happen in a real estate transaction, but I genuinely don't have anybody that I was like, oh my gosh, I would never work with them again. But I've been really lucky. And so we're going to talk about how I got in that position. And now we're 100% referral. So we don't do any Zillow leads. We don't do any realtor.com leads. If you're an investor and want to work with us, we go through an application process of an actual conversation of what are your goals and can we help you accomplish them? And are we going to be a good fit together? I have a couple investors I work with very well. And then there's other investors who really take advantage. And I'm not willing, and I'm going to go through that. How do you attract your ideal client, your ideal investor, the ideal builder relationship? How do you attract the ideal existing clientele? How do you get those referrals to pour in? Because we get referrals every single day, and I'm super, super happy. And this is live on YouTube. So if you are somebody who watches my YouTube channel, because I love being in listing appointments and hearing that you watch our YouTube and you've implemented some of the things that we've talked about on YouTube before. So that makes like my heart explodes. That's awesome. And it's funny because I don't have very many YouTube subscribers, but I hear a lot of people tell me, hey, I saw you on YouTube, which I think is really freaking cool. So it makes me feel like my son, he wants to be like a YouTube superstar. And I'm like, hey, me and him are competing. Okay, guys. So if you have friends who will subscribe to my YouTube right now, it really helps me in my son's competition. So this is totally unrelated to real estate, but like real life. He's trying to get more subscribers than me. And we're like, I think he has like 15 and I have like 40. So if you could just keep me bumped up, and he's James Flanagan BMX. I think it's James Flanagan BMX on YouTube. Anyways, I'll tag him because he would love if any of you subscribe to his channel. It would boost his little ego, my little 7-year-old's ego. But anyways, so I love it when I'm on a listing appointment and I hear you guys say like, hey, we watched your YouTube. This is what we took away from it, because anyways, that goes along with the ideal client thing. And then we are going to dig into short-term rental success, how to do Airbnb from A to Z. And I have been helping a couple people get their Airbnb set up recently. And it's really allowed me to just write down every single thing, every single template. What's important? What do I add to the Airbnbs? What do I put in my welcome messages? How do I set it up? What pictures do I take? How do you figure out the Airbnb algorithm? So I'm going to be talking about all of those on the bonus session, and vacation properties. So that is going to be a big conversation that I'm really excited about. So because vacation rental properties are a beast of their own, and there is definitely some strategy that needs to be implemented when you are making a decision on where and what location you're going to be in. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions about the content that I just went over, please feel free to ask. Shoot me a DM. Me and Brad are figuring out our next podcast episodes, and we would love some topics from you or questions that you guys have. We're an open book, you guys. We've had, everything happen to us, from rental properties. We've got multifamily. We've bought and flipped. We've done a little bit of everything. And so we are open to questions, and we really want to hear what you guys have interest in knowing, because I get messages after the podcast saying that you all listened, but I would love to have messages before we record a podcast, so we actually know what our listeners are interested in learning more about, or even if it's just, I don't know. I just love to get your feedback. So thanks for tuning in. I am off for right now, and enjoy this beautiful weather. Check this out, you guys. Muted me. I don't know what happened. We had to cancel our event in Omaha because it was rained out. And so I stayed in Arizona because I feel better here. I have really bad allergies in Omaha. So I stayed in Arizona, and it's beautiful. So I'm going to go take the kids out and enjoy this awesome, awesome weather and day. So thank you guys for watching.